welcome back to Mayhem with Maverick, brought to you by Mayhem Studios, LLC. All right, so I pissed some people off my last video talking about ICE and, you know, people who obviously don't understand the law are still trying to make me look like I'm an idiot. But I quoted everything properly. I did everything right. I did my research. But again, I'm going to get you this time too. I'm going to piss you off if you hate ICE because I'm going to throw stats at you and I'm going to throw videos at you to prove that you're wrong and that the Democratic Party has Alzheimer's. They just want to forget. So I'm going to tell you a little scenario, right? And this is probably sounds familiar, right? Federal agents, guns, goes into a home in Miami to retrieve a 6-year-old, right? They drag him out of the closet and they send him back to Cuba. And the federal agents say, hey, we were just following the law. We were following orders. How dare they? God, that sounds like Trump's. That sounds like a Trump freaking thing, right? Wrong. It's Elian Gonzalez in 2000 under Bill Clinton. So why can't we have ICE in mini Somalia? Why can't we have ICE in all these other sanctuary cities grabbing people up and taking them out of the country when we took a 6-year-old and dragged him out of a house to send him back to his father in Cuba when him and his mother left Cuba and his mother died on the way to seek freedom? I mean, Bill Clinton's also the guy that murdered children at Waco, you know, so let's not forget that. All right, so Chuck Schumer, right? Oh, he's against all this ICE stuff. He's against treating these people wrong and all that. In 2009, Chucky Schumer, he openly referred to people who entered the country illegally as illegal aliens and did not like the word undocumented worker. He said that they should not be treated the same as legal immigrants. So check this out. Watch this video. I'm telling the truth.
The American people are fundamentally pro-legal immigration and anti-illegal immigration. Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple. When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration, which the American people overwhelmingly oppose. If you don't think it's illegal, you're not going to say it. I think it is illegal and wrong, and we have to change it. Above all else, the American people want their government to be serious about protecting the public, enforcing the rule of law, and creating a rational system of legal immigration that will proactively fit our needs rather than reactively responding to future waves of illegal immigration.
So isn't that what Trump's doing? Isn't that what Trump's been saying he wants to do? So what happened, Chucky? Did you get amnesia? Did you get Alzheimer's? Did you forget what you said back in 2009? Obviously, the Democratic Party and all these liberals and these millennials, because, you know, these millennials will believe whatever they're told from the party instead of doing their own research. They obviously forgot. But let's continue on with the Alzheimer's of the DNC, right? In 2014, President Obama stated plainly that undocumented immigrants had broken the law and must be held accountable, especially those who pose a danger. Let's go to the videotape.
Let me have a quotation here, and guess who this is?
And yes, I know it's Fox. Suck it up.
Of the United States. Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable. That sounds like President Donald Trump, right? It's Barack Obama in 2014. Watch.
Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous. That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%. And that's why we're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security.
I heard on the Sunday shows this weekend, why
I really am trying to figure out. I mean, those are the same things that Trump says. Same things. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get how what Trump's doing now is any different. But here's another proof. Ready, set.
More people were deported under my husband and Barack Obama without killing American citizens and without putting children into detention camps than were in the first Trump term or this first year of.
She's right and wrong. I mean, they did, under Clinton and Obama, they did put kids in detention centers. She's lying about that. But she is right. No one was killed during the Obama and Clinton years. But you know what else? No one protested. No one interfered with law enforcement. No one attacked law enforcement. The difference is Trump's doing the same thing those guys did. In fact, the same thing Clinton, Obama, G.W. Bush, and Biden did. But he has all this pushback, all these terrorist-based protests. They're not even protests, they're riots. I got videos we're going to show later. They're riots. They're not peaceful. Peaceful means sitting on the sidewalk, okay? So what's the difference, right? Immigration law wasn't controversial to Chucky Schumer, to Hillary, to Bill Clinton, to Obama. The law hadn't changed, right? Same law. The law that I discussed in the last one, immigration law of 1996, signed by Bill Clinton. It's the same law all those presidents, including Trump, used, right? The border didn't change. Still the same border. We haven't been taken over. Our border hasn't changed. The language changed, right? Illegal alien became undocumented worker. Law enforcement became cruelty, Nazi, fascists. National sovereignty became hate. So if you believed in national sovereignty, you were a hateful racist. Same laws, same authority, just different words with different narrative. That's the problem. Why? Why? A lot of the why is it's just because of Trump. Believe it or not, they hate Trump so much. Again, if he cured cancer, they'd have signs saying, "We believe cancer should survive." Okay, so, hey, look at this picture. This is Trump's Gestapo on the beach harassing immigrants. No, it's not. That's a picture of U.S. citizens sitting on a beach in California during COVID and being harassed by law enforcement because they were outside, because they weren't allowed to enjoy the nature. And no, you can see in the picture, no one else is around them, so the chances of them catching COVID is slim to none. But that was Gavin Newsom that sent police officers after people. So let's talk about too much control of law enforcement. I gotta go with Newsom was a little crazy there. And don't forget, you had other idiot governors telling people, rat on your families, rat on your neighbors. Here's a line that you can call and tell us if your friends or family are violating the COVID restrictions. Fuck you. Those governors all should be ran out of freaking town. Tampon Tim was one of them over in mini Somalia. All right. I'll get to it here. Scott Jennings. If you don't know who Scott Jennings is a CNN commentator. And he pointed out a statistic that he said the left doesn't want to acknowledge. He said 660,000 illegal aliens have been removed from the U.S. 170 U.S. citizens were briefly detained and released. That's a 99.9997% accuracy rate. So we'll just say 99% accuracy rate. Almost 100, but Jennings pointed out and stated, I quote, "If any other government agency got things right that often, we'd be throwing them a ticker tape parade. The mass deportation chaos is a narrative left lie." And it is, folks. The only reason why there's so much chaos is because they're interfering. They're being paid. I mean, you got to see people roll up in negative 10-degree weather and already have all the supplies to protest. Give me a break. It's a job to them. Why aren't they at home taking care of their kids? Why are they bringing kids to these things? You know, there was a kid that got tear gassed. Why is that kid out there? Okay, so we're going to talk about numbers now, right? Just since the beginning of the year, and these are rough, 88,000 illegal immigrants arrested in Texas, 34,000 illegal aliens arrested in Florida, 13,000 illegal aliens arrested in New York. 12,000 illegal aliens arrested in Georgia. 23% of all ICE arrests occur in Texas. 2.2% occur in Minnesota. 2.2% of ICE arrests occur in Minnesota. Okay? All these other states have way more arrests and don't have the chaos and the riots and the civil disturbance and disobedience. But Minnesota does at 2.2% of the arrests. So why? Why? What do I believe? Because the Democrats are promoting and provoking violence. The Minnesota Democrats do not hate violence. They love it. They're encouraging them. The mayors, the governors have said, go out, protest, track them. We have an app. Tell us where they are. It's okay to throw stuff at them. They're not getting protected. The police aren't protecting these ICE agents as people throw bricks and bottles at them. You know, one of the problems is the Democratic leaders. They're encouraging this behavior. All right, let's roll into the riots, AKA, we're peaceful protesters. All right, let's break down history, okay? Let's talk about the First Amendment, all right? You can find this anywhere. I happened to find it in the Library of Congress. So I'm going to quote some things here. Congress, this is the First Amendment. This is word for word, the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibition the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Okay. Might have got a little tongue-tied, but that's all the old English, and that's what it says, and that's what everybody wants to scream and yell. Freedom, freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom to protest. Well, it doesn't say protest. Let's make that clear. People peacefully to assemble. Assemble, all right? Now, I'm going to break down the 5 cores of the First Amendment, all right? Religion is one core. First Amendment prohibits establishing a state religion and protects the free exercise of religious beliefs. What that means is the government can't say, this is our religion, like the UK. King Charles is not only the head of state, or besides Parliament and the Prime Minister, King Charles is the head of England. He's also the head of the Church of England, okay? So that's what that means, that the state can't enforce a religion. Free exercise of religious beliefs means you are free to practice your religion. That's it, okay? There's no other, everybody wants to twist that one up. It's pretty simple. You're allowed to practice your religion, and the state, the government, cannot tell you you have to be this religion. Okay? That's it. Another core value, speech, everyone's favorite. Speech protects the right to expression and expressing opinions without government censorship, including symbolic speech. So again, the Supreme Court said a couple years ago, burning the American flag is part of speech. You know, if you go to any other country and burn their flag, you're going to get your ass beat by the cops. But, you know, I support that. If that's what the Supreme Court wants to say is okay, then I'm going to say it's okay. But it protects the right to express opinions without censorship. Okay? That doesn't mean you can say whatever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want, wherever the hell you want. If you believe that, please walk onto an airplane and scream bomb. Please walk into a crowded movie theater and scream fire. Or better yet, walk into any bank and go, hands up, this is a robbery, and see what happens. Freedom of speech is limited, and you don't get to trump somebody else's freedoms with your freedom. And we're going to get to that later, okay? Another core value, the press. ensures the right to publish information, opinions, and news without government interference. So the freedom of press means that they can't be censored by the government, no matter if they say, and we have it already, Donald Trump's a pedophile, da 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 da. No one's getting in trouble for it. No one's being censored. And if we'll throw that back there, if Trump was such a dictator, a fascist dictator, like all these idiots want to say, right? Would you even be able to say he was a pedophile on national TV or in the national newspaper? No. You want to know what a dictatorship is? Go look at Iran. 70,000 people dead because they're protesting against the Ayatollah. That's a dictatorship, okay? So stop using that word, because all it does is make you look illiterate when you say Trump's a dictator and he hasn't done a damn thing that proves that he's a dictator, all right? The next core value, assembly. This is where people get confused about protests, okay? Assembly protects the right to gather in groups for peaceful protests or demonstration. I'm going to, look. See what it says? Protects the rights to gather in groups for peaceful protests or demonstrations. That's where you guys are screwing up. Because it's not peaceful when you throw things at police officers. It's not peaceful when you block police officers with your car. It's not peaceful when you attack police officers, okay? Peaceful means you sit there and you hold your little sign, make your little chants, sing your little songs, but everybody else in the world is allowed to go about their life. See, again, that comes back to you don't get to use your First Amendment right to trample on other people's rights. You can't block my driveway as you're protesting something because I have a freedom to drive out. You can't block. I remember when I was a police officer, there was a famous general that was doing a book signing at Sam's Club down in Gulf Bay, and we got called for the protest. What they were doing was wrong because what they were doing was they were blocking the entrance to Sam's Club and they were blocking the roadway. All they're allowed to do, and we told them, we're not going to make any arrests, we're going to educate you, and if you do it again, we're going to come back and make arrests. Stay on the sidewalk, you don't impede traffic, and you don't block the exit and entrance to the parking lot. And that goes for buildings too, which they're famous for doing. They will block entrances to buildings. Well, I'm sorry, but that's a fire code issue. You can't block egresses from a building. So again, this is not peaceful protest. So you're not protected by the First Amendment, all right? The fifth and last one, petition, allows of individuals to ask the government to address grievances or change policies. So you're not happy with a law, you're not happy with the bill, you have a right to grieve it, and you have a right to petition. You could protest peacefully and grieve the government. Do both. Like I said in the last video, all right? So let's talk about the limitations. Limitations of First Amendment, because there is limitations of First Amendment, all right? And I know all the liberals like, there's no such thing. There is, okay? The First Amendment is not absolute. Restrictions apply to certain types of speech and actions, all right? Unprotected speech, obscenities, defamation, libel and slander, fraud, incitement to imitate lawful, I'm all screwed up, sorry. Incitement to imminent lawless action, a riot. True threats and fighting words are not protected. Now, every state's a little different with the fighting words because you have assault and you have battery. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to get into what the First Amendment talks about. And this is, again, from the Library of Congress. But I want to really get into the incitement to imminent lawless action. That's when you have a group of protesters that start to become violent and everybody goes, let's do it. Flip the car, burn it. That's not protected by the First Amendment, okay? Fighting words and obscenities. I mean, most police departments, most cities, most states will not prosecute people for obscenities unless it's to a point where it is really Like if you're sitting in the middle of Pier 60, Clearwater, Florida, with a bunch of kids and you're just screaming every vulgar word, you're going to get it. You're going to have cops show up. You're going to ask to leave. And if you don't, they'll find an ordinance. I think it's breach of the peace, if I remember correctly. And if I don't, oh, well, I'm not a cop anymore. Okay. So contextual limits. Time, place, and manner restrictions on speech and assembly are permissible if they are content neutral, narrowly tailored, and serve a significant government interest. So the government can put limits. Says it right there, okay? Can put limits. Private action. The amendment restricts government action. No actions by private employers or individuals. It restricts the government from saying that an employer can't punish you, all right? Now, I did do a little digging because obviously I knew there's going to be a lot of liberals out there that are going to scream and yell that I misinterpreted the First Amendment and all that. So I went to the ACLU, which is they're pretty infamous, right? They're pretty smart. So from the ACLU, try that again. From the ACLU, peacefully to assemble, right? This is the key qualifier. The Constitution protects peaceful gatherings, not violent riots or disturbances. At your own peril, while the right to protest is strong, it is not absolute. Let me say that again. It is not absolute. This is a quote from the ACLU. If a gathering turns violent or threatens imminent harm, blocking emergency vehicles, inciting violence, it loses its constitutional protection and participants can face arrest, prosecution for unlawful actions, not for assembly itself. Okay, so what it's saying is once it becomes from a peaceful protest to what we have in Minnesota right now, all the riots, because those are riots, you lose your constitutional protection of the First Amendment. This is the ACLU saying it. In essence, the Constitution guarantees peaceful assembly, but the government can intervene. The government can intervene when assembly turns unpeaceful and individuals bear the risk of legal action from crossing that line. Okay, so that straight up, it tells you peaceful, and when it's not peaceful, you can be held accountable. You got to stop thinking that you're untouchable under the First Amendment. You're not untouchable. There are limitations. And when you realize that, you can protest properly. But again, these people don't want to protest properly. They're of this generation of, they've been told no, and now they want to have a hissy fit. All right. So we're having all these problems up in Minnesota, and I'll just show you a perfect example of this hotel, right? Tell me how this is peaceful. I think you get the gist, right? That's not peaceful, okay? They damaged the hotel because ICE agents were staying there, and these little temper tantrum people are upset that they're staying there. And oh, it's just so funny that ICE agents can't wear their masks, but the protesters can. Well, I'm sorry, rioters can. Now, don't worry, body cameras are coming. But of course, the Democratic Party was like, oh, we want body cameras. So DHS was like, you got it. No problem. I'm going to tell you people, the more you cry that you want body cameras, the more you're going to realize you're going to get screwed in the long run because it's going to show everything, right? And now you got Chucky Schumer and Spartacus saying, okay, you guys can use them, but we don't want you to use them to track people. If you're on that camera, you're being tracked. And if you're doing something illegal, they have the right to track you down. It's evidence now. It's proof you committed the crime. So all you idiots that are doing this, when those body cameras come out, you're going to get found and you're going to get tracked and you're going to get held accountable. And I hope everyone does. All right. Now, based on that issue, they're also doing that at federal buildings where the ICE works, ICE detention centers, and Trump has said, hey, I'm going to send the National Guard in. And everybody's like, oh, no, you can't do that. You know, freaking tampon Tim's like, you're not sending troops into my city or my state. And, you know, you can't federalize the National Guard to do this and da-da-da-da-da. Guess what? Again, wrong. It's absolutely unprecedented, is what they say. It is absolutely unprecedented for a president to deploy the National Guard to quell civil unrest. Unless you're Eisenhower in 1957, JFK in 1962 and 63, LBJ in 1965, 67, 68, Nixon in 1970, Bush in 1992, and Clinton in 1993. Again, the Democrat amnesia, Alzheimer's. So it's unprecedented that a president ever did that. I gave you a list, and I'm going to get deeper in it. Did the Democrats forget that in 1970, the National Guard was federalized to Kent State, and several students died because of that? And most of the people that are protesting don't even remember Kent State. I mean, it happened before I was born, but I was taught about it. Did the Democrats forget about their own convention in 1968, where they were threatened by a bunch of Vietnam vets and were protesting? It's eloquently shown in the movie Born on the 4th with Tom Cruise on how they raided and they tried to take over the DNC convention because they were protesting the Vietnam War. Did we forget that? Here's a big one. I would think that every black liberal out there would remember this. Did we forget Little Rock, Arkansas? 1957. The Arkansas governor took the state guard to block black children from going to school against the U.S. Supreme Court ruling of Brown versus Board of Education. So Brown versus Board of Education said there was no longer allowed to be no longer allowed to have segregation in schools. So they were to desegregate. So these black children tried to go to a school in Arkansas, and the governor used the state guard to keep them out of the school. So what did they do? Eisenhower federalized the Arkansas National Guard, specifically the 101st Airborne, to escort the Little Rock 9 into school. I learned that in school. Now, I can guarantee you they're not teaching that anymore. But you want to say that it's unprecedented to use National Guard federalized to quell things. I just don't know why the Democratic Party thinks we're all that stupid. You know, let's get into the First Amendment issue, right? Don Lemon's screaming and yelling how he's a journalist, right? So let's see what Don Lemon did.
Renee Good! Renee Good! Renee Good! Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are your people? Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities? I'm not going to comment. You have no comment, exactly.
What do you think of this? I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live there's a Constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
Okay, you heard Don Lemon, right? Freedom of speech, freedom to assemble. But you just trampled on everybody in that church's right to freedom of religion. Okay, you can't use the protection of the First Amendment to violate someone else's First Amendment. Don Lemon, you're a piece of shit, okay? You're not a journalist. You want to claim all this stuff that you were just there and all that, but you forgot the number one rule in journalism. Report the story. Don't be the story. And you became the story, and you're going to get punished. You're going to be held accountable, okay? Now, the person videotaping and the one that you could hear all the mouth, Renee Good and all that, this is an idiot veteran. His name is Kelly, William Kelly, a.k.a. the woke farmer. Yeah, people make fun of my name on this, all right? Let me tell you about Mr. Kelly, right? He stormed into that church and interrupted that mass, and you could hear him screaming and yelling all these vile things to these people. Hands up, don't shoot, by the way, which was disproven by Obama's DOJ. That's a lie, has been a lie, and will always be a lie. They agitated. They walked into a church. What did any of those people in the church do? What did they do to deserve that? Nothing. They're trying to just enjoy their day, being Christians and soaking up Jesus. So again, they trampled on their First Amendment right to practice their religion. It's the best. I had to find it here. The best part about this is when Don Lemon finally got charged and got arrested, he said, no one in the church believed he was a journalist because he was black. Oh, come on. So now that you're in trouble, see, you went in all, I'm a journalist, First Amendment. Now that you're being charged because you violated everybody else's rights, now you're going to throw the race card. It's because I'm black. They didn't know I was a journalist. Bullshit. Everyone knows who you are. You're just not a journalist. You're not a journalist, Don. Get over it. All right, so let's talk about Kelly, right? Kelly has publicly, constantly claimed during all his protests that he's a U.S. Army combat infantry veteran who served from 2000 to 2011. He says he served in Afghanistan as a time as a warrant officer, right? So, public records paints a whole different story, okay? So, we go through this public records and, he protests and says, I took an oath to the Constitution, and he yells at law enforcement, he yells at veterans. He's just a piece of shit. But, we're going to show you how much of a piece of shit is. He was a non-combat administrative role. That means he was an admin. He was a paper pusher, okay? His actual job was in human resources. I found no evidence of combat experience. I found no deployments, but he could have deployed as a non-combat. I deployed as non-combat. I mean, most people deploy as non-combat that are behind the line, right? He claims to be a warrant officer. That's not true. He said he made warrant officer in 2008. Not true. But what I did find out is he went to court-martial for larceny, resulting in a demotion to private, E1, and a bad conduct discharge. So he got kicked the hell out after going to a court-martial. So he obviously doesn't know the Constitution real well, because I'm pretty sure, you're supposed to respect people's property. So he challenged Kristi Noem, ICE, and Pam Bondi to come at him. Come get me after that incident in the church, right? And he did. And he cried like a girl. I love this picture. All right. So let's move on to some other things I want to talk about. Let's make one thing clear. You can believe Alex Preddy raised the risk by intervening while armed, and also believe he didn't deserve to die. Okay? For some reason, if you're on one of the sides, no one can agree. I don't think he deserved to die, but I think he was stupid for intervening and carrying a handgun. That's my opinion. And I'm not going to change that opinion. I don't care what you're doing. When you intervene with law enforcement and you're armed, your percentage of being killed goes up. If he was truly just a peaceful observer, he didn't need the gun. But that's here nor there. All right. So both can be true. Should he have died? I don't believe he should have. But he made choices that put him in that situation that got him shot. I don't know the full story. I've seen videos. I've also seen things about that gun, and that gun can accidentally discharge. And there is some video that shows that when the ICE agent that removed the gun and walked away, that gun went off, and sympathetic gunfire from the other agents. I don't know. But I know I hear on the video, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. That already puts those guys in high intense. And, you know, all in all, it went bad. It's a bad situation, but he shouldn't have been there intervening. All right. So, do you want to get arrested, attacked, or killed by ICE while you're protesting? No? Okay. There's an easy way to prevent yourself from being arrested, attacked, harassed, or even killed by ICE. Stand on the fucking sidewalk with your goddamn signs, chant all you want. And I will guarantee you 100% you'll go home. You won't go to a jail. You won't be shot and killed. You'll go home and sleep in your bed at night. Because that's what you're supposed to do. But when you interfere with law enforcement, and you put hands on law enforcement, and you keep them from doing their job, you're going to get attacked. You're going to get arrested. And if you're stupid, try and run one over, try and fight while you're armed, you have a chance of being killed. So make right choices. And let's not forget, Alex's father knew he was going. They told him, go ahead, go protest. Don't do anything stupid and don't get involved. He got involved. Now, he's no Boy Scout, okay? Like the news paints him out to be. He's not a Boy Scout. You look at his picture's been freaking modified to give him a nice jawline, give him some hair, because dude had some really bad hair. Paints him as this all-caring VA ICU nurse. Well, not at the time of the incidents. He got fired last year for freaking misconduct. He had complaints about his misbehavior with veterans. Okay, and here's another thing. They say, oh, well, he loved veterans. He loved caring for veterans. I call bullshit on that. You know why? Because 35% of the Department of Homeland Security is veterans. The guy that shot him was a veteran. So if he cared about veterans, he'd understand that some of those guys are veterans and that he wouldn't interfere with them if he truly cared about veterans. He didn't care. It was a job. He had a government job that gave him good benefits. That's the only reason why he worked at the VA. Now, even his ex-wife says that he was a wonderful person, but she did say that he dove deep into protesting and activism after the George Floyd incident. And he got so obsessed that that's part of the reason why they got divorced. So this guy was not screwed on tight. His nuts and screws weren't all tight. He was loose. You know, I mean, you know, especially like, you know, he had a right to have the gun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he had a CCW. He has that right. Okay. And technically by law, he has that right to take it to the protest. But there's things that you have a right to do that you have to question yourself. Should I do it? Okay. Now he didn't just have a CCW weapon. Okay. I carry a Glock 40 cal, right? And that's all it is. It's a gun and I hide it. I don't want you to see it. His gun had a freaking optic and it was a lot bigger than my gun or my wife's gun that we carry concealed. Okay. You want your gun to be concealable. And I know, you know, I already had this discussion with some friends. Oh, Mike, you don't know, the world's changing. Everybody has optics. Fuck you, okay? If you can't shoot the gun with iron sights, you shouldn't be shooting the gun. Yes, the optics are great, and I really think that law enforcement with handgun optics is the dumbest thing in the world. Dumbest thing. I get optics on rifles for long range. I totally get that. But optics on a handgun, I think it's stupid. I was a firearms instructor in the military. I was a firearms instructor in the police department. I think optics on a handgun is stupid. And if you're going to be a concealed carry, an optic on your handgun is just more that can shadow on your clothing. So why would you want that? And that's my personal opinion. I'm getting off that soapbox. So I want to show you some of the videos of Predator that involved the week before the shooting. I'm going to show you this video. You tell me if he's a kind, caring individual that's just peacefully protesting.
Fucking trash! Fuck you!
Now, that was about a week before he was shot and killed by Border Patrol. I know I said ICE, but Border Patrol is the one who shot him. This incident is with ICE agents. He's kicking cars. He broke the taillight. He's yelling and screaming. Prior to that video, the ICE agent said that he was blocking their cars. He's aggressive. That's not peaceful protesting. That's not an observer. He's involved. Again, the same thing like Don Lemon. Report the story, don't become part of the story. So, and it's the same clothing that he wore to the next protest that he went to where he ended up losing his life. So he had a standard uniform that he wore to these protests because he was an agitator. Again, didn't deserve to die, but he was an agitator. He got what he brought. All right. I know you guys, I'm going to get blown up for that one, but I had to say it, you know. So let's talk about schools, right? There are schools all over the country allowing students to leave and protest ICE. What the hell is this shit? If I left school and got caught, I got suspended. These teachers are telling them to do it. It's okay. I'm going to give you credit. Go protest. If my child's in that class, you and I are having a long discussion, and I'm going to make sure that the school realizes that my child isn't getting what I pay for in my taxes, which is an education. He doesn't need an education on protesting. Tell me where that's in the curriculum of any school. Tell me that, right? What is wrong with the administrators allowing them to leave? Now, there has been some videos of administrators putting their foot down going, if you leave the property, you will be suspended. And there are schools that have suspended them. And I support those administrators, and I applaud those administrators. But there were way too many that didn't do their job properly. This is what the liberals want. They don't want them in the classroom learning. They want them out there protesting, because when you're poorly educated, then you have to rely on the government. You have to rely on the government for food. You have to rely on the government for money. You have to rely on the government for medical, because you can't get a job because you're not educated. You didn't pass high school because you were out protesting and fighting ICE agents. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable that our children are now reeled into it. I'm going to show you some videos here. I'm going to show you a video, and I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this video. And I please, I apologize for the sound. There's some music on it. All right, so it looks pretty rough, right? You know, these cops are they're beating up innocent kids. And if you didn't see in the beginning of the video, one officer had one of the teenagers, and another teenager ran up and tried to take him away. Well, once you touch a police officer, and once you involve yourself and try and break up an arrest, game's on. No holds barred. You're going to get dragged. You're going to get pulled down. But here's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, look at these cops. Look at these cops. Yeah, well, what you got to do is you got to look at the first video of this group that this news hasn't shown.
This student-led protest outside of Aurora City Hall turned chaotic quick when a man pulled out a Trump flag and allegedly egged students on.
Which he has a right to do.
Dozens of students chased the man. He was hit and kicked multiple times with rocks, water bottles, and shoes were thrown at him.
How's that peaceful?
After several minutes, volunteers, including an East Aurora High School dad who doesn't support Trump, helped the man escape into Fifth Third Bank.
He didn't listen to move away from them. He didn't listen. They went up to him.
Okay, so there you go, right? That was the group that those police officers were arresting. They weren't peaceful. They didn't just walk and march like Martin Luther King did. No, they're throwing bricks, they're throwing bottles, they're attacking people that have an opposite belief. That's why the second video is so crazy, because it was chaotic. The kids were out of control. I blame the school systems. I blame the town for allowing the school system to do it. And I blame the education system, because these children think they can get away with everything. You know, I don't know how many times that my partner, me, all my friends have arrested juveniles, and that means anyone under the age of 18, and they don't learn nothing. They're disrespectful. They're worse. That I've had the worst arrests of juveniles than many adults. I mean, like, a drunk adult is less problematic at times than some of these children. And you know, as a police officer, you're afraid to truly do what you need to do to get them in control, because God help you, now that there's freaking cameras everywhere, you twist the wrong way. Oh, the poor child, but that person didn't see that poor child spit on your partner and punched you in the face. Again, soapbox, sorry, went down. So now all these protests up in mini Somalia, you know, there's been a lot of damage. The ICE agents haven't done it. The National Guard haven't done the damage. The Border Patrol hasn't done the damage. The federal employees haven't done the damage. It's all the citizens. And let's be honest, it's really not many citizens. These are people that are coming from other states. But it's the protesters, the rioters that have damaged Minneapolis and other towns in the state. But Tampon Tim has the audacity to demand that the federal government pay for all the repairs. Are you kidding me? First of all, Timmy, you're under investigation. Your state's under investigation for all the Somalians who have defrauded the United States government and shipped money back to Somalia, which I've been there. It's not even a third world country, guys. It's like a 10th world country. Most of the marriages are incestuous. And I think I saw on the World Health that like 30% of the people are inbred. That's why they have the big foreheads and all that. But the fact of the matter is the federal government didn't do the damage. Now, it does happen, okay? There was a riot, and I can't remember if it was in Seattle or LA. The police department, the local police department, they dispatched tear gas, and it ruined some of the businesses. Yes, then those businesses can regress the city, and the city paid to clean it up. They are held accountable. When I was a non-lethal guy and I was the gas guy for our ERT, we were told that we could be held accountable if we throw gas and it destroys property and all that. That's why we're trained to be very careful with how we do it. But all this damage has nothing to do with anything that the federal agents have done. It is all damage based off of the rioters. So Tampon Tim, you're not getting nothing. And if I was President Trump or anybody in his administration, I'd tell him no. In fact, I want to know where all the money is, and I want the money back. I want all the U.S. citizen money that you took and these Somalians took for all these leering centers and all these things. Man, you got to watch Nick Shirley. Oh, my God. It is so obvious how bad the fraud is. It's just dumbfounding on how bad the fraud is. You know? So I'm done for today. Guys, I know I've probably pissed off a lot of people out there. And that's okay, because you know what? We don't have to agree on everything. And I'm not going to agree with anybody. When I just gave you stats, I showed you videos. People are telling me that the immigration law in 1996, there's no such thing. I mean, you got to be freaking stupid not to believe that. And you got to be pretty stupid not to believe that when I say Chuck Schumer was for immigration enforcement and then show you the video and then still say he never said that. Go back on the plantation, sit on the porch, let the adults have a big conversation about the real world, okay? So, guys, if you like the video, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody, hey, I got merch. I'll put a link in the video and in the description. Let's get this thing going. Let's hit 1,000 let's try and hit 1,000 before freaking the summer. All right. In that case, I am out of here.